So at this starting point, we don't really have anything. I mean, for these online versions, we do have a kind of opening sort of provocation, let's say, which I think, Margot, you can reveal, can't you, as to what that is? Oh,
in due course.
Katie, were you saying something there?
No, sorry, just figuring out the mic and everything. Sorry about that.
Okay. Well, welcome.
Your mic is fine.
I hope you heard our little introduction. If you didn't, we'll probably do it again as more people enter the room. What was our opening provocation, Margot?
Yeah, so we were kind of looking at, because I think there's a lot of Zooms kind of happening and going around, but we also talk to communities a lot, and obviously every one of us is part of a community, and probably some of us are part of the South London community as well. But we were kind of wondering whether the future is becoming a bit too digital, and are we, is there any room for being together in person, and if so, how to do it safely? And is there kind of safety, going a bit mad at the moment? I just saw this video today of a university somewhere up north. They were saying what safety measures they're going to put in place to make the students feel comfortable. So that's very, very specific.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you talk about this idea of comfort, because obviously there's a kind of virology side to this and the science side, but there's also the question of like what people are going to be comfortable with and what they're going to be, happy to accept when it comes to getting back together again, and how's that going to work? So
like some people that I speak to, they really are not into digital stuff at all, and it's not even people who are digitally excluded. I've got some friends who are creatives, but they don't feel need to churn stuff out online. They're just not interested in that. So they're not going to join a quiz. They're not going to do a pop-up, video somewhere for fun, and share it from the Facebook page. They're just not interested in that. They're just literally counting days to when it's going to be acceptable to open theatres, and that kind of stuff. And yeah, there's a chosen resistance to it.
Let's put that out there to our audience. What do people think? Have we gone too far down the digital black hole? How's it going to go? Where's your comfort zone? I think this idea of comfort, I think, is really important as well. What do people think? Out to you guys. Anyone? Rin, have you got something to say on that? Hello, welcome.
Hello. Hold on. Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you've got a very professional microphone there.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah. I'm just actually setting up watch parties. So what was the question?
Well, I mean, are you digital? Are you over digitalized right now?
I'm not digital enough. I just want to upload myself to the mainframe and
let
go of this earthly body, please.
Okay, so not digital enough. You would like to get more digital. Maybe we can explore that a little bit. Well, I mean, what would be the advantages of uploading yourself to the mainframe?
Oh, I wouldn't want to eat pizza all day long. That would be the first one.
Yeah.
Pizza's great.
Okay,
carbs,
so guilt-free pizza. Okay, so where do we want to go with this? Do we want to welcome Evie? We're sort of talking about, is our future getting too digital? Some people are extremely turned off from this idea of being online all the time. Other people like Rin want to go further and actually upload themselves into the matrix so that they can then just consume pizza all the time. I'm going to come to you in a second, Evie, but Katie, you've got a point here.
Hello. Well, I think that what's happening is kind of similar to, let's say, when even news started becoming more digital from, let's say, newspapers. Yeah. First impression was that, it's a very bad thing and so on and so forth. Whereas now we much more, I would guess, I hope, appreciate the advantage of getting, not waiting to know what happened and always have the news of yesterday. We actually are much more on the edge. We can I mean, it provides advantages, but at the beginning, it was obviously very unusual. It was called unnatural. It was called wrong. I mean, when I was a kid, even my parents were like, stay less on like using the computer. Whereas now it's like, yeah, use it more. Maybe you'll become a programmer and, you know, your future will be better. So the view on the exact same thing has changed over time just because we understand it better now.
So
And
it's more a question of familiarity. So is it a question of comfort and we just need to get comfortable with this digital world?
I think that the comfort comes from understanding. In this particular case, I think that, you know, people are afraid of losing this feeling of interaction. But I mean, I'm sorry if I go a little bit too deep here, but there are currently technologies coming up which will basically change our perception. There will be no perceptional difference whatsoever, whether you are here in your room or whether, and you will be like online somewhere in the forest and you will feel the smell, the wind, like from A to Z, no difference whatsoever. So whereas that will be digital, our experience will not change. But of course, there is kind of a breaking path in between, just like it was in the past, you know, horses to cars, newspapers to smartphones, and so on and so forth. It's, I mean, from history we can learn it's not very new thing, and that we always see comfort in staying the same.
Right.
Whereas from history we can learn that staying the same is not an option, like ever.
Okay, what do other people think about this conjecture from Katie? Is it just about getting familiar with these and just, David, you've got a point?
Yeah, basically, okay, first, the old point is like the virtual pub. So finding a way that basically you can get into the conference room without being like so-called invited for, so you can just come up as a free printer or something. But anyway, now recently I went to a reading. It was play reading, and that was like just wonderful. It might need some tweaking and everything, but the entire it's like it was very, very nice to just be an audience on a Zoom meeting with like some actors.
So let's get this. Yeah.
Okay, so basically, I don't know. It's both ways. Basically, digital world and the physical world is two different things. The impressions are two different impressions. You will not get what I got last night from a regular meeting, because basically there is some kind of rules with like the Zoom meeting that doesn't happen in real life. That's it. Thank you.
Like people not interrupting each other, for example.
Not listening to each other. You don't listen to everybody. Basically, when you're in a pub, you talk to one or two people. It's quite pretty hard to have a large audience, captive audience.
Yeah.
So it's quite different. The content is richer when you got
actually,
like
there are some advantages here, and you can get rich. You can have bigger conversations. Margot,
I think interesting what you were saying, Katie, that you know, that we like being in our comfort zones, and I think definitely when you said, you know, how parents say, "Oh, don't spend," or you know, people were saying, "Don't spend so much time on the computer." And I was like, "Yeah, you may become a programmer." I mean, it's a huge, huge shift. And I think that definitely goes for arts as well. I think there's so many artists who thinks of that, who, you know, maybe they didn't want to, they never set out to be, you know, digital artists, but now we kind of don't have choice. But I think there's also an opportunity there. But I think there's the reluctance, you know, if you spend, however old people are, if you spend all that lifetime trying to figure out life and kind of getting your bearings, and then suddenly it's all changed and you are expected to behave differently, you're supposed to receive the reality differently. I think, yeah, that's fair that, you know, resistance comes from that. I love staying in comfort zone in that way.
Okay,
Even though I like to think that I'm audacious, but clearly not. I don't know.
We've got a new face in Kim. Welcome, Kim. Hello. At the moment, we're kind of talking about, are we going down the digital black hole? It may be just the fact that we are going digital, that most of the people in this chat are like, yes, let's go down there. Let's go down the rabbit hole, see where that takes us. There's a lot of advantages to being online. In the virtual world, you can eat as much pizza as you want, for example. You can have conversations with a much wider group of people. You can actually have richer connections, and that's what people are saying. But are we losing something? I think that's the question. And is it just a question of getting used to this sense of being digital? It all came from this question of what's the post-COVID world going to be like? Are we going to go back to hugging each other and being all in one place, or are we going to stay digital? Because some universities are just going to stay digital, and is that the right way? That's what we're talking about anyway, something like that. But it will go from subject to subject. Evie, you got a point down here? Hang on.
I'm unmuted now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was maybe touching a bit on what David said, more thinking about social interaction. It having gone to a few sort of digital parties or things recently, you realize that the concept of hosting is gone, because usually if you go to a party or go around to someone for dinner or just have a drink, even in the pub, there's the rituals of buying a round, or someone cooks so you bring a bottle of wine, or someone brings a pudding or a salad, and suddenly we lost all of that. And it made me, I think it makes you really tack on to those really small actions which are part of a social interaction that you don't usually appreciate until you're all just sitting sorting your own beers out on Zoom, and then it becomes kind of fake. Well, not fake, that's the wrong word, but you realize that it's so much more than just a conversation. It's like interactions and trades between one another. I don't know how you do that on Zoom.
Is it just like about developing the format and actually improving Zoom? Or, I mean, at the moment, I should say, we're trying to work on how to create our own format where people are sitting around the table, very much like, this table that I'm sitting at now. I'm just going to change video on the second camera, and just, people, this is what Talkaoke is normally like. Oh, I don't have my other camera. Anyway, but it's a basic, hopefully you can see actually this round table, and people sit around the table. But what we want to do is create a technology where people are virtually sitting around this table rather than all in the grids. It's been recently compared to the Muppet Show, where everyone's all in a so is it just a question of improving the technology, or will we never ever get to that point where it's like a party and you can bring a trifle? There's no trifling matter. But this is what we're talking about. Is the proof in the pudding, I guess, is what I'm trying to say here. Katie, let me come to you, and I'll come to you, David, afterwards.
Thank you. Well, I do actually think it's not a question of if we will figure these things out. It's more of a question of when. I mean, going to a little bit more basic level, like even every interaction that we do with the outside world, from touching, from hearing, from everything, at a basic level, it's basically neuro sending signals to our brain. Once we bridge that gap, there is no difference anymore, and any situation whatsoever you can experience in the same way. You will be able to go to a virtual bar, which will not feel virtual. You'll just be able to change its surroundings on the go. It's like being being a wizard kind of thing. I don't know if it's the right comparison, but like you'll be able to change everything on the go. You won't have for example, we were talking about someone hosting a party. Before this lockdown, I used to host parties at my home like really, really often. But the party's over, you end up having to clean all the mess. Nobody talks about it. You never say it, but it's always there. And, after a few dozens, maybe even a few hundred meetings, you go like, okay, so when do I go somewhere else where I don't have to clean up? And now imagine a reality where we could all go to a different place every time, create a new place every time, design our own every time, put our creativity to it, and we never need to clean up.
And you just have to hit empty trash and it's done.
Yeah, pretty much. And apart from that, there is no difference from our current experience of it. I mean, I know it's not tomorrow, but, well, big people are saying it's within 10 years, which is close enough for me.
Okay, so we're going to go right down. We're going to be doing the digital partying. Rick's doing the visuals at the back here. That's his first attempt at visualizing, I guess, this digital world, the digital black hole that we seem. So, it seems that most people on the conversation are quite keen to take us there. Others perhaps are not so keen, but maybe they're not online talking about it. And Katie's just mentioned this point. We've got a couple of new faces now that are just emerging. Are we actually, is it actually much easier to have a party online? Because instead of spending the whole day hungover and cleaning up, you just hit empty trash. That's the point. And you just delete that digital messy space for a new space. Just want to say welcome to our meet, but Margot's got a point, so I'm going to come straight to you.
I propose with this. I mean, in a way, I do. Yeah, cleaning is just a bit annoying, but I also think cleaning is just an important time for reflection. I don't want to get too deep because we are talking about cleaning after a party. But you know, if you are kind of a reflective person, I think you would, you know, you kind of recount what happened and that kind of stuff. And sure, you'd probably rather do something else. But I think it's just important parts of life. I worry that if we go to a digital world, we're just gonna, you know, omit the things which are difficult or things we don't enjoy. It's not about us always enjoying everything all the time, because part of life is death, part of life is illness, part of you know, life is pain and all those kinds of things and difficulty and crisis, and that's where we thrive. So I wouldn't want to.
So you're saying the digital world is too clean? It's too easy to clean?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So where are we going to go from this? Anyone that's not said anything yet want to chime in? How are you finding this? Oh, sorry, David, you had a point. I just will also encourage, as we get more and more people, just hit the digital raised hand, because likewise, it's just cleaner than the actual physical raised hand. It's easier for me to navigate. David, what was your point?
Okay, it was just a question. Does anybody set up their Facebook avatar? Have you seen this Facebook avatar? It's quite a funny one. But basically, if you had a similar technology to basically being able to make physical avatar, there is technology, because anyway, I heard of other stuff. Genetic Moo is doing some stuff, similar things, and I'm doing some stuff with some artthings.io/pixel things, and basically that's give you a little pixelated character. You can create a little pixelated characters who will be like emerge into like somebody else virtual world. We do that on Saturday. Anyway, so basically the idea would be able to set up an avatar where basically this avatar will be able to go from place to place, and basically you can make it look the way you want. It can be a gender fluid kind of character.
Okay, so we're all setting up our avatars. Kim, you've got a point. What's your point, Kim?
Yes, I hate it when people on social media have avatars that aren't their actual self.
Really?
I just, worst of all is when they have pictures of themselves as children.
Right.
But anything else, I just want to see a good, honest shot of someone's face. And then I know that they're a genuine person. There's way too much scamming going on social media to mess about with animation or emojis or anything else.
So an honest shot of a real genuine person, warts and all, their real true self. I mean, you know, I'm coming to you here from this talk show without makeup, without actually even combing my hair for that matter. So that is the way that Kim wants to see it. What about, I mean, is the avatar a bit too dishonest? What do other people think? There's a few people on this channel that have not given their perspective on this. Anything from those who've not said anything yet? I mean, are we?
I don't know, like avatars, they kind of remind me of this idea of idol worshipping, right? Because it's a representation.
Right. Okay.
That isn't you, it's something else, and becomes like a, you know, almost like an idol or something.
So it's going sort of a bit biblical. Do not worship the false idols of the avatars.
Yeah. Well, avatar is not. It doesn't come from the Bible, but yeah.
Okay, Katie's saying on the chat, what if avatars were an accurate representation? Margot, what's your point?
No, I think it's an interesting point what you said, Anita, about, you know, the kind of representation, but then what is this a representation of? It's a representation of ourselves. And it's just a bit narcissistic, really, I think.
But I mean, what about, in a way, are we being too literal by representing ourselves as the photo, as the warts and all photo, when actually maybe the avatar can express another side to us that the photo can't express? There's that point as well. Are we being too literal when we're saying we need to have a photo? Tim, I'm going to come back to you again.
Multiple aspects, aren't we? Like, we don't have one true face. So,
okay, all right.
Sometimes we have our image, our photo. Sometimes we want some kind of avatar representation. Sometimes maybe something else.
So you think that's kind of okay? It's kind of,
yeah. We don't just have our real selves. Isn't just static. We're more than just one.
Okay.
One person. You know.
Let me come back to Kim on this one.
Yeah.
But don't you think your real self comes through in what you're saying, the images you're posting, the comments you're making? But I can't see how having a picture of yourself is narcissistic. I mean, it shows that you're a genuine person, and I just find that baffling.
Okay, so in a way, what is your true self? I guess we're getting really existential now on this one, aren't we? Is the photograph Rin, you've got a point here?
Yeah. So, like, if people can use photographs to describe themselves, then that doesn't make them real or not. Seeing how people walk around with makeup on and dyeing their hair. Like, I have nice lighting in here. I would look completely different if I just opened the curtains.
Yeah.
Like, the hell of my face would become real.
Okay.
If
so keep those curtains closed.
Yeah. So like fancy lighting, you know, it just helps. It just helps a bit, you know. But people dye their hair and they wear Spanx. I don't know what they are, but I've been told that's what women wear. Spanx.
Okay, so was someone
Kim's laughing. She knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Old lady pants, basically.
It's a South London thing.
Okay, it's a South London thing, obviously. Okay, we've got a flurry of hands now with that one. Just want to say welcome to Ellen as well, and just to fill you in on what we're talking about. We sort of started talking about this kind of post-COVID world. Are we getting too digital? And then it was like, well, a lot of people want to go further. People like Katie and Rin want to go further down this digital world because they see the possibilities that, you know, there's actually things you can do that you can't do in the real world. It's David's saying it's richer, but are we kind of losing the sense of who we are? And, you know, that's what we're talking about now. And like when you've got a profile picture that's not your real photograph and it's just like a, you know, like an avatar, how does that kind of, you know, is that in a way more descriptive because you're describing your character, or actually kind of being a bit dishonest? That's where we are right now. Evie, what's your point?
Oh, I just thought what Rin was saying about having lighting and that, you know, being able to, that you're always maybe trying to manipulate not manipulate yourself, but change, present yourself in a different way. And it made me think, I guess there is an aspect of does being able to be in some way flattering in your picture, your avatar, or your lighting, allow you to be more confident and then be more yourself. Or is it a crutch? I don't know. I think if I'm looking really bad in a Zoom call, I'm not feeling underconfident, but I'm like, why is my nose so big from this angle the whole time? And maybe not listening to people, but maybe I'm just vain.
Okay, so there is a question about, you know, you catch yourself at the wrong angle. Maybe you don't like the look of your nose. Where does kind of like flattering lighting or makeup, you know, where does that sort of segue into some kind of like misrepresentation of who you are when it comes to your avatar, your profile picture, whatever it is? I just want to say welcome to Daniel. I don't know if you've picked up on where we are with this conversation, but I'm going to do another introduction soon. But let me just I'll come to you, Margaret, in a second. Let me just come to Kim, because you've got a point. Oops, go on.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, about the avatars or headshots or profile shots, whatever they are. I think the thing generally with social media that annoys me is that when I do want to change my image or add a frame or something, that it goes back through history and changes everything you've ever done. It would be nice if the platforms were sophisticated enough that you could change your image depending on what it was, conversation you were having or what you were talking about. Right. I think, and then yes, it would kind of encompass if you wanted to change it to something hilarious or whatever. But it's that notion of you only being able to have one image. And as I mentioned before, I think the thing I find most disturbing is when people use pictures of themselves as children or even their own children, which just beggars belief, basically.
Doesn't that just sort of reveal a more kind of childlike side of them, that everyone, as they say, everyone's got a child inside of them?
Well, no, it merely shows that you've no idea who you're talking to if you're not a close friend. Yeah. And with the high level of personal safety that you need to use online, I genuinely find it astonishing that anyone does that.
Okay, let me come to Margot. Oops, hang on.
Sorry, I did what Kim recommended, which is when people are not talking to mute themselves. Thanks, Kim. And then I forgot. But I was encouraging Katie to say about avatar as a form of makeup. But I do like what Eddie was saying about kind of projecting yourself to the world in a way that, for whatever reason, just makes you feel more confident. Can help you achieving the best form of yourself or how you want to present yourself. I think it's actually a very interesting concept. And we are then in charge of it as opposed to waiting for the external world to validate us or whatever. So actually it's quite proactive.
Well, let's go to Katie. Katie, you've got your hand up. What's your point?
Yeah, thanks, Margot. Basically, I think that if we just look at the history, technology throughout the history was basically giving us more freedom, let's say in a form of giving us more time. Let's say 100 years ago, a lot of people spent hours during the day preparing their food. Once we managed to speed up the process, find new technology to refrigerate it and so on, we saved a lot of time, which gives us more freedom to do whatever the hell we want with that time. So considering how much, let's say, people spend during the day for makeup, if you add that time over the year, it will be quite significant chunk of time. So let's say if you digitize it and, you find a makeup you like, and instead of spending an hour or half an hour a day putting it on, you just click a button and off you go. That already by itself gives you more freedom to use that time for creativity and so on. Which is another side of digitizing things. Let's say 50 or 100 years ago, if someone imagined, let's say, a very beautiful comic and they wanted to share it with the world, they would spend probably a whole year drawing it, then a while printing it, and then spreading it. It would take like the pipeline would be really, really long time-wise. And that's one commodity we are limited at in the biggest way, at least at the moment. Whereas, let's say, imagine if to create a song or to create some artistic drawing, you wouldn't need to spend time to develop the skill. You would just need to imagine it. And at that moment, you would be able to spread it. Imagine how much a talented person would be able to create more in the same amount of time.
Okay. We're kind of, I guess I'm going to sort of paraphrase what you're saying, is that we're kind of speeding up the time between the idea, the imagination, it first arising and it becoming something that other people can appreciate. It's getting shorter and shorter from years to just a few minutes now, where we're improving our technology. And with makeup, that's part of it as well. That's part of this time savings, more time for creativity. Amit, let me come to you.
Yeah, I was just thinking about avatars and our image that we create for ourselves, but people kind of tend to judge people on how they find them, how they appear. So we don't have much choice over how we look, you know, the basics of how we look physically. I mean, that's something that we don't have much choice over. So in a way, aren't our kind of physical appearances and what we look like, aren't they actually an avatar anyway of our internal self? And we've always been judged on what we look like to a certain degree and how we appear. So in a way, it's kind of similar, isn't it? You know, you have a bit more choice over an avatar than you know what you're given.
So do you think, are you sort of agreeing that it's a kind of improvement of the technology, that it's kind of like it reveals something that we've got more control over in a way?
Well, I think it gives us a choice to kind of show the part we want to show.
Yeah.
Which, you have a bit more control over that, don't you? Because in your physical kind of real life, you're not really aware most of the time of what you're doing, how you're presenting yourself. I mean, you may be to a certain degree, but these things are kind of in the moment. So you're more unguarded. You're more unguarded in real life. With digital kind of technology, you have more control over these things.
Okay, well, let me just, we've got just Piotr's joined us. Hello, Piotr. I'm just going to quickly sum up where we are. It's about, we sort of started off about, you know, what is life going to be like after COVID? Are we going to go back to just hanging out? And then we sort of talked about some universities are just staying digital. And then are we going down, then we're talking about, are we going down a digital black hole? People like Rin and Katie and David are all enjoying this idea of the possibilities that digital offers, rather than the you know, the difficulties, the obstacles. And there's a bit of resistance to that. But now we're kind of talking about, okay, if you've got an avatar, if you've got your digital self, you've got way more control over it, and you can actually express different aspects of who you are. Is it more dishonest or is it more honest? That's the conversation where we're at right now. And how do we play with that? Anyone that's not said anything want to chime in here? Want to say a few things? Also want to word out to the to those that are not on video. If you want to say something, just hit the raise hand function so we know that you want to talk. Otherwise, it's kind of hard to know. Okay, so yeah, where are we going to go from here? Where do we take this conversation? Point from Daniel. Daniel, what are you going to say?
I think having avatars can be a more honest way of, like, I mean, it's a mix of both, because like I sometimes use avatars to in my profile, but a range of like different cartoons. Yeah, because I'm really into different cartoons. So sometimes it will just be like a Sonic the Hedgehog character, right, or some sort of comic book character. Male, female, it doesn't really matter. As long as I feel like I identify with the character. Yeah. So I guess whoever's interacting with me might, if they know that character, they might resonate more with me, because they see, oh wait, you have a Wonder Woman icon, you really like Wonder Woman comics, so something like that. So it's
in a way it's a different aspect, but it makes more sense for those who know you already, I suppose. Is that what you're saying?
Or even if they don't, I guess it really depends on the person, because I don't know, someone might just think that you're like a child that that's into cartoons, and you're trying to have like a important business meeting. And you just have like a cartoon dog as your profile, and it might not work. But or it might, because
it might actually just lighten the thing up a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, let me come to Piotr. Welcome. What's your point?
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Hello,
sorry. Yeah, I'm just playing with the.
Oh, we lost you again there, Piotr.
Zoom on mobile. So
Yeah. Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you,
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just saying that I'm playing.
Oh no, we lost you again, Piotr. We're gonna have to come back to you later on. Yeah, we'll come back to you in a second. Let me go to Amit. Amit, what's your point?
Yeah, I was thinking that actually having an avatar or something like that is a form of escapism, a form of fantasy almost. I mean, it's hard. Our real identities are quite, I mean, they're concrete in a way and they're hard at times. I mean, we want to escape our real selves from time to time. And having an avatar or something like that is a way of doing that and escape the concreteness of our real selves.
Yeah.
So it's quite, I don't know, it's a form of creativity. It's a form of...
Is it like extra work in a way?
Like what?
Is it extra work to do that? Because you have to, you know, you have to, it's like having a garden. You've got to sort of like...
I think if you do it, you're doing it because that's something you want to do. I don't think you're viewing it as like a task to do. I don't know, I guess it's a form of creative expression. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not one to kind of do avatars. I don't really do that, but I can see why people might want to represent themselves in that way.
Okay, so you wouldn't do it. Why wouldn't you do it yourself?
Me, I mean, I probably just because I'm a bit lazy like that. Yeah, maybe yeah, like you're saying, it's a task. It's for me.
Yeah.
It's
is it? I mean, do you think it is a bit like makeup? Because you don't strike me as a sort of makeup person either.
Me.
I might be wrong about that.
Well, I've worn makeup on occasions.
Oh, you have, yeah.
You've seen me with makeup on, I think. Yeah. It's like makeup. It's something. It's a bit of an effort, isn't it? If you want to do that, if it interests you, then you're not going to do it as a task.
Okay. What other Kim? You've had your hand up for a while there. What's your point?
Yes, I suppose expanding out that idea of avatar. The premise of the discussion was around community engagement. And how do we all think that if we were presenting ourselves as an avatar, that would be a barrier or indeed perhaps an advantage if we were working in community engagement?
Okay, really good point. Bring it back to community engagement. Would that avatar thing be helpful? Would it be getting in the way when we're actually trying to reach out to communities? Let me just come to Ellen. What's your point, Ellen? Hang on, let me unmute you. Hang on. It's not working. I don't know why. Eric, come on. I don't know. You seem to be persistently muted there for some reason, Ellen. Oh yeah, there we go. Go. Yeah.
It was going to go back to the point about makeup, but perhaps it's best to bring it back to.
Well, what were you going to say? I'm sure it's relevant. Come on.
It was just going to be about the fact that I know that I forgot who it was, but somebody brought up the idea of maybe like creating like some kind of digital makeup so it takes less time to do, so you can produce more work.
Yeah, I think that was like, Katie.
Yeah, but then I thought, does that raise questions about like productivity and how we're basing we're valuing ourselves on how much we can produce in the world? Because a lot of people, they enjoy putting they put on makeup for themselves and they really enjoy the process. And I think you can argue that wearing makeup is creative.
Okay, so you're saying in a way this kind of speeding up, is it really necessary to speed up and just cram more and more stuff in? Well, Katie, you've got your hand up anyway, so you got your point to make, but also maybe you want to answer that question about speeding. Are we just accelerating, speeding up too much?
Well, I don't see it only as a form of speed. I see it also as let's take a simple example. Most of the times when I'm creating an avatar for a game I'm going to play, I often spend few times longer on it compared to how much time I spend on makeup. Not just because, like, let's say regarding makeup, I can, just draw my face, whereas here I can do much, much, much more. So
can you give us an example of what kind of thing you would do for an avatar?
I don't know, maybe, you know, maybe one day I would go out fat, maybe another day I would go out thin. Like, you know, you can play with these things. I mean, it gives pretty much more freedom. And in regards to whether it's better or worse for the community, I think that considering the fact, and I have to admit it might have it must have happened at least few times in my life too. Sometimes we may consider someone's opinion less just because of their appearance.
Yeah.
So maybe in community, you know, we may have some very good voices and very good opinions, but we'll just ignore them because they're coming from people who are looking not in the way we like people to look.
Yeah.
Whereas if people, you know, could just change it like that, maybe it would, and like, for example, I rarely go to community meetings in my area, even before the lockdown, because, you know, sometimes maybe I wouldn't feel comfortable about it.
Yeah, yeah.
If I could erase that not comfortable part totally, it would definitely increase my engagement, no doubt about that.
Okay, so, I mean, what kind of avatar would you choose to be, kind of have your opinion more respected and more listened to?
I would probably often use a more controversial appearance, let's say, more challenging one, the one that you know, when I don't need to keep it every day, I can just use it sometimes to make a point.
Yeah.
It
so
would
you
be
go a bit more
controversial
in a community meeting.
Yeah, because now I feel, you know, in a way restricted that, you know, if I go too crazy on some side, first of all, I'll be stuck with that for a while.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you know, I may struggle to make a point without it.
Okay. Let me come to Rin. You had your hand up. Has it gone now, or is it?
Well, it's basically,
what was your point?
The same. I think it was just the same as Katie's just made.
Yeah.
In areas where your face does not fit. This used to be a term that was banded around in corporate circles when I was working at the O2 and at Wembley Arena.
Right. Okay.
Like if your face didn't fit, you got sacked pretty fast. So in a digital world where you can use an avatar, it doesn't really matter how you look. If your face doesn't fit or they think you're too soft a person, you know, you're behind a screen. So, or you're behind another image.
Okay, Rin, but what about the idea of changing your face to make it fit, to make you, is that really helpful when it comes to this question of, you know, of advancing communities? Like, is it right to change your face to give yourself more respect? Or
well, isn't that what lots of Instagram people do? They get surgical whatevers to fit in with a community of surgical whatevers. You know, I think people are doing that, but if we can do it online without spending money or going under a knife, then that's ultimately better.
Okay, so there's all right, interesting.
Depends what community you're talking about. Some communities will just be more accepting than others, and if you're, I guess where it would come into its own is if you're maybe a very knowledgeable 16-year-old boy going in to teach teachers how to use technology, then being able to not look like a 16-year-old boy would be very beneficial to you.
Okay, but I mean, are we then kind of like kind of furthering those stereotypes? Is, I guess, my question, that it means that young people have got less of a valid opinion, or, you know,
whatever gets the job done in the most practical way is probably the way it should be thought about.
Okay, so let's just get the job done. Kim, I can see you shaking your head, but I'm going to come to Amit first because you've had your hand up for a while. So what's your point, Amit? Hang on.
Yep. Yeah. I was just this thing of choosing an appearance through an avatar, some other representation of yourself. Like, it's more of a question to everyone else. Like, how different would you feel comfortable making your avatar to what you look like? Would you be a different gender, skin color? You could, like the previous person was saying, you can be a different age. And then I guess in some ways that can become a manipulation of who you're kind of presenting to. You know, if you portray yourself as somebody completely different, and it can be used maybe for kind of, you know, sinister practices in some ways to kind of misrepresent yourself. So don't know, like a question, how different.
I mean, can I just turn that question back to you? If you were going to do an avatar, say you were trying to, I don't know what it would be for
Yeah, no, because I was thinking there's like a online a game they play where you have to create an avatar for yourself, and you can or pick from, they've got like 100 different avatars. And I guess that's I've always chosen a male avatar. I've never chosen a female avatar, but I've chosen like different skin colors. So I've been, yeah. So, but yeah, I don't know really. It felt quite kind of fun to play around with that a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're talking, Margot, I'll come to you in a second, but Stephen, did you have a point? Because I saw you raise your thumb. Were you just agreeing? I'll come to you in a bit, but let me come to Kim.
Yes, I think that there's a distinction, isn't there, between creating an avatar for an online game where everybody's an avatar, and creating an avatar if you're working in community engagement, where clearly absolute honesty is the basis of that engagement. And I fully appreciate that sometimes you don't engage with things that you think you might be interested in because you think you wouldn't be comfortable in going. But the idea that somehow you would be forced to change yourself in order to participate seems to me completely the wrong
in a way
approach.
it's kind of anti-community, having to change to be part of the gang.
You shouldn't have to change yourself under any circumstances. I'm not suggesting that's easy for a moment, but I think there's the beauty of digital connections can't replicate the beauty of interacting with people face to face in person.
Okay,
but it can still have a different richness. But honesty must lie at the bottom of all of that. But I'm not saying that avatars don't have their place. And as I said earlier on, it would be great on social media, certainly, if you could have a range of avatars, not just have one that then changes your whole history on Facebook or whatever when you change it, so that you can use different ones in the way that you use emojis to express your emotions, even, that, and it wouldn't sort of change everything you've ever said
let me
in
come
your
to
whole
Evie.
social media history.
You've caused a flurry of hands there, Kim. So let me just come first of all to Evie, then to Rin, then to Katie, then to Rin. Evie?
Yeah, I thought what Kim said was that was really interesting, because I don't know too much about community engagement, but it just made me think of maybe a contrast to that. So the community engagement I have done is if I've done, if I've been working at like summer fairs, or like working with children at like local like half-term activities and things like that. But because I was, doing that either for a job or for volunteering, then I changed my name on Facebook as a result of that, because I didn't want that to make sure that there wasn't a distinction of the children who I met, who are obviously very young, didn't then find my like private social life. So I was it's quite interesting about like, yes, I guess honesty is important, but I actually, from working with children, know that there seems to be this kind of like level of safeguarding that you have to kind of put up, and so you have to really make your social life and your working life or your volunteering life quite distinct.
So it's a kind of like a church and state separation kind of thing. Okay, let me come to Katie. I'll come to you in a second, Rin. Katie, what's your point?
Regarding that, honesty, I think that now, like our self-expression regarding how we look is like stuck between wanting to have more freedom in that. Like, as far as I know, almost everyone I've met would like to be more free in how they present themselves outside. But at the same time, we're still stuck on a very old notion that somehow your looks impact, like have some representation of who you actually are. So we all basically lie most of the time, but we pretend that to be the truth.
What sort of lie?
Whereas I think the avatars would be a very good, like, for a time, I think it would be more as a transitional phase where we would go so crazy with it that we would fairly soon understand that looks are meaningless as long as your mind is sound.
Okay,
like,
so
I
the
saw even
avatar
some,
is a phase that we go through.
in a way, maybe some of it will get stuck, some of it won't. But I saw a very interesting video where as soon as they started these online classes, like one class, I saw a picture of the whole screenshot of all the faces. It was like, I don't remember, university or something, like half the students went with some crazy ideas, crazy avatars and so on. And interestingly enough, the whole class and studies went unaffected. So obviously, I mean, it just proves a point that, we should pay much less attention to the looks. And it has been pushed through for a while, but it's just still didn't stuck. Yes, let's say more, you can get more jobs if you have, let's say, facial tattoos nowadays than 20 or 30 years ago, but you still can't work in a bank, no matter how smart you are.
Okay. So if you've got a tattoo on your face, that's kind of excludes you from certain things. It's a good example. Rin, what's your point?
Every time I go to make a point, Katie gets in there before me. It's pretty much exactly the same thing. Yeah, like I'm sure we've all had jobs where we've had to put on the uniform and become somebody different. I used to work with magistrates in the Ministry of Justice, and when I started there, nobody would pay me any mind. And then by the time I left, I was managing 3 departments because I just played their game and hidden an entire everything else that was in my life, working in fetish clubs at the weekend and stuff like that, which I would have been sacked for. So I think it depends on the community that you're working with.
Yeah.
And you have to kind of meet a middle ground with most people before they'll take you seriously enough to know that you know what you're talking, let them know that you know what they're talking about and they should listen to you.
Right.
Where it was on the internet, we're now free to say whatever we want and people can come and follow us if they want to, so like you may not be completely skilled in planting pots or whatever. So you put on a program on the internet, you become a digital program about planting pots, and then people who want to know that think that you know everything about planting pots and they become your community. You would not get that in the real world because people would be like, you can't plant pots, look at you.
All right. So, I mean, do you agree with Katie's conjecture that if we all did embrace these avatars, it would just be a phase, and then in the end, we'd just go, well, actually, looks are not important, and let's just.
Yeah, that's what my mom said about my emo phase that has lasted 25 years.
Okay, a long phase. Okay.
Yeah, I think like you start off with a thing, and then, as Katie said, I agree with pretty much everything Katie says. You just pick up the bits that you want to keep going, and then you drop off the bits you don't.
All right.
So, yeah.
Ellen, let me come to you. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I hear Katie's point, but I don't really believe that people should create avatars in order for people to accept their appearance.
Yeah.
I don't think it's for you to worry about how people perceive you or accept you based on your looks. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just think you just need to stand. You need to just, if you're in a space in a meeting where you feel like you don't belong there, you need to just exist because people will have to accept that. They just have to accept you. There's no point trying to put on a face and trying to appease people. No, just be who you are.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I think that's going to be more beneficial in the community, because if somebody sees you, maybe you're different, and they're like, oh, cool, someone like that does a certain job or are capable of being a member of the community, then I don't know. I think that's a better way. Just being who you are and just standing, appearing is just a better way of just. So it's going to create community, blah blah blah.
Yeah. There's a danger that if we all use avatars, people would only think that the only active community members were like hedgehogs and warrior princesses, rather than the wide range of people say that we've got on our conversation. Yeah. Okay. What do other people think about that? We've got a new visual from Rick at the back here. Just playing with that avatar thing. I like what you're doing there, Rick, actually. That's making sense to me. Okay, Margot, what's your point?
I mean, there's a whole conversation happening in the chat about, keeping your professional persona and your private personas separate, and you know, and I think to me, my problem is that I don't think, and going off on what you said, Rin, in a way, it just becomes a game. To what extent do you know your opponent or the environment in which you kind of move around, and how to play the game, which is kind of something what you said, and kind of like play them into accepting who they think you are. But actually, I'm not those things. That is just one aspect of me. And I wonder, particularly working with young people and communities, you know, wouldn't that be great if we didn't have to create these two different personas? Somebody that I worked with, she worked with a lot with Muslim communities, and for a long time she had to say that she's got a husband, because if she said that they are partners, she was worried that that won't be received very well. And only gradually over the years, she kind of, you know, slowly kind of came out as, you know. So, you know, but I think, yeah, or the way people are with their friends. I mean, that is all part of being human. I mean, there are things which are more appropriate and less appropriate. So it's about maybe monitoring the, you know, who is exposed to it. Because like, I wouldn't behave in a certain way with my mum in the room as I would somewhere else, but that, you know.
I mean, what about this question that Ellen's put forward, that it's really one of the things about community is accepting all the different faces that we see in the community. And if we are adapting to people's expectations, like the thing about the, you know, being married, unmarried, for example, in that context, or in other, are we actually not making the case for this diversity of community that we really want to have, and acceptance of people's point of views? You know, from my perspective, and I might even jump out of the middle of this table and get someone else to do this hosting, because it's like, I'm the, you know, Mr. Pale Male Stale, that supposedly everybody's opinion, you know, I've got the opinion that everyone listens to, and it's like, how did that work out? Well, we know the history, but you know, and that's the point I'm making. Like, if we're adapting ourselves, are we not actually, you know, shying away from that actual struggle to change people's perceptions and change their minds? As my question, not just to you, Margot, but to everyone. And Rin, you've got your hand up, and Katie, you got your hand up as well. I'm going to go to Rin first, so she can get a point in first this time.
Thank you. I think it's very broad to say that people should see everybody in a community. When you're working with in community engagement, you need to know who your market is. You need to know what community you're working with. So the point about the Muslim group, you know, those things are where it's boiled down. You do need to think about what kind of image is put out there. Yeah, you have a neighborhood that's got Catholics, Protestants, you know, whatever in it. But if you're only dealing with one side or the other, then you need to like customize yourself into to whatever works for them the best until they realize how awesome you are, which can take like 5 minutes. It might take 5 months, depending on the audience.
Get the awesome thing through first, and then kind of do the big reveal of the identity later on.
Yeah, sure, do that.
Okay. Katie?
Yeah, thank you. Well, quite a few points have gone through, and just like regarding us being what we are, I mean, it's great for you guys, but at least in my case, I am a little bit more than one person. I've worked from Fortune 200 corporations to even sex-related work. It's like the range is so wide of what I've been as, what I've acted as, and how what lives I've led. It's almost like 5 in 1. So as a result, I'm kind of a combination of all those people, and it's like different places I act in different appropriate ways. And for example, yes, I do try to always be as close to my real self as possible. But for example, just being a transsexual has lost me a number of promotions in the last 5 years, for example. And this is very interesting for me. Like I've met a lot of people that voice the need that we shouldn't pay attention to the looks as much as to your, you know, knowledge, understanding, and intelligence. But at the same time, as long as we have been trying to push that idea through, there are still a ton of ways to notice that it's still present. So I see it like, you know, avatar thing, and even the current situation as a way of oversaturating it to the point where it becomes so wild that it, like, paying attention to it becomes like useless anymore. And I think that's the fastest way to reach the point where we stop paying attention. It's like, okay, now we do pay attention. Okay, let's play with that. Let's, you know, make it so wild, so crazy that anyone who is still paying attention will have their mind blown. Okay. And then we will stop it.
Okay, so you're kind of almost let's saturate saturate the world with images of ourselves, and we can also describe different aspects of ourselves with this avatar world. Maybe that's the way to get people to kind of stop paying attention to the way people look. What do people think about that? Does somebody else want to have a go at hosting this conversation? So we've not got this kind of like pale male centric view of the conversation. I'd be quite interested to experiment with this. We can make you the co-host. In the meantime, well, I suppose Rick could change me to like a different kind of personality as well, a different face. But that might be quite hard. We'll see. But anyway, where do we want to go with this conversation? Does anyone else want to step in and host this? We've got a new face in Emmett. Evie, you've got a point here?
Oh, no, sorry. I was just waving at Emmett.
Okay, all right.
I'm trying to think if I've got a new point I can bring to the table. We can talk about avatars. We can talk about digital black holes. Wanting to look like different people.
Well, I mean, you know, I can still do the sum up. Is there a point from Daniel? There's also a point from Amit. I'm just gonna go to you. Daniel, what's your point? And let me, yeah.
I really liked Katie's point about about personas, because I think that's quite important, because we're not just we all have a different persona that we put on whenever we interact with different people. And to link it back to community engagement, I think one of the questions I wanted to ask is, if we're talking about avatars in related to like community engagement, is everyone in the community, do they all have avatars, or are you the person who is trying to develop that relationship with the community? Are you the only one with the avatar?
Yeah.
Because
I mean, what do you think, Daniel? Do you think you need to have like a equality of avatars, so everyone's got an avatar?
Yeah, I mean, I think.
Yeah.
Well, if you are, I think it would be a lot easier for the people in the community to feel safe at home, like safe in that community, if there was a level playing field. And depending on the type of community it is, anonymity might help, because it allows you to express yourself without fear of judgment. Although the consequence of that is that sometimes anonymity could have negatives. You might get unsavory sort of views. But if we're doing this in the sense to be honest, and to interact with a diverse amount of views, then you will have to deal with the fact that you're going to deal with views that you don't necessarily agree with or don't like.
Oh, so yeah, I mean, that's kind of interesting. I mean, that is kind of what happens on the internet as a whole, that because we don't see people's faces, we don't see who they are and what they've got to say, you know, what they've got to say in their real lives, let's say, then we do get this kind of broadening of opinions. Sometimes it can lead to trolling and this extreme points. But the other side of it is people feel free to express themselves. And I guess that's a wider point for the internet as a whole. I just want to say to those people that are not on video, if you do want to say something, just use the raise hand function so we know that you've got something to say. Because we do actually want to bring you in, and we don't necessarily want to force you to come onto video, because as Daniel says, there is this point that sometimes you can say more if we don't see you. And I'm wondering as well if that gives a different flavor to the conversation when we can't see people's faces. Amit's got a point. What's your point, Amit?
Yeah, I was just kind of thinking that somehow this conversation is also about the individual and the community. And I think somebody was saying that communities need to accept the individual and how they are.
Yeah.
And I agree.
Ellen's point. Yeah.
Yeah, but I was also thinking that there's some, a community is one thing in itself. So there has to be kind of a bit of give and take. There has to be from the individual to kind of accept the community standards. And so it's not just, yes, the community does need to embrace the individual and diversity, but I think there's a two-way process.
So you're saying it's a balance? Is it a balance? You think?
A balance to make the community work. There has to be a balance. Yeah.
Okay, let me come to Margot.
I was just also interested in, the point that somebody made on the chat. That's Ms. Jones. I don't know if she wants to they want to expand, but it interests me the notion of, open access and denied access to certain areas, certain conversations, lifestyles, and the list goes on, based on your looks. And maybe actually having an avatar would be like a good way of subversing that. Because I was trying to figure out how long have humans been doing this, judging based on the looks, but maybe it's not just humans, I don't know. But maybe avatars are the kind of disruptions. They're the ones, the kind of digital made-up personality, made-up looks, can open us up to really listen to people that we wouldn't normally listen to because we've ruled them out, because whatever, the devastation, or from a different country than us, or right-wing and left-wing, that kind of stuff. So maybe if everybody kind of surrendered their personalities, their values, what they stand for, and things that they can't escape from. We can't escape from the way we look. If you put that, like Amit was saying, when he chooses different skin colors, when I don't know if you were talking about games or
yeah, I was talking about games. Yeah,
I forgot, but does that give you a different insight into how other people live their lives? Not as a kind of fancy game persona, but kind of.
Would that be an interesting thing to do, to actually take on somebody else's persona, take on a different gender or a different skin color? And what would we actually learn from that? Says the pale male stale. What's that, Daniel?
Oh, if it was in a game, not much. Not based on the games that are out right now, but it would be interesting. I was talking about this too with my friends. If someone designed a role-playing game where changing the sex or the ethnicity of the character might have an effect on different interactions. I think it does happen in a minimum and small amount in modern games, but nothing like to point
like the real world.
Yeah.
What kind of things do you think people would discover if they, or is it hard to know without having kind of, none of us have. Maybe some of us actually have changed their appearance or changed their gender. So what kind of differences would we discover that maybe, by in a way being perceived as two different people that we would get?
Well, are you asking me?
Well, yeah. Well, you're on the line at the moment, and you sort of brought it up. So I'm going to ask this to everybody because I think it's a really interesting question. If we could change these things, these fundamental things about ourselves, would it give us a new insight? And what would those insights be?
Interesting.
Oh, yeah. I guess I'll just say my one quickly. Well, I think it depends on what you change first. I mean, who am I to know? Like, but I guess it would depend on what you changed, and I think, yeah, you would definitely learn. You definitely have different experiences based on what you change, and that will, I mean, if you are open to seeing how different people, if you're open to that change and you're open to the way society treats you, or you're more cognitive to the changes, then you'll be aware of the fact that, oh, now that I've changed X, Y group or these people or society is now treating me in a different way, and that might make you more aware of it, and then maybe it's something that you would want to change.
Okay, Amit, I'm going to come to you in a second. There's a point from Margot.
Yeah, I mean, there's it's an interesting proposition that Katie had made apropos of looks versus what we think of people. As an experiment, Katie says she loves experiments, but I have like 20 minutes notification of this talk, so I look as ugly as I live. Anyway, this is not, I mean, whatever, like, Katie, we would love to see you, but only if you're comfortable with it. But I think it's an interesting kind of suggestion, you know, put that to people. Hey, Katie.
Hello, Katie.
You know, can you change what you think of a person or their views if you if you suddenly put an image of what that person looks like or looks like today, your imagination, and you're kind of trying to match that against their views or how they perceive themselves to be. So, I mean, I don't know, Katie, do you want to do you want to expand now that you're here in flesh, digital flesh?
So I guess, well, now it's like your turn to voice whether it's any different or it's the same. Like here comes the point where we're talking about how honestly are with ourselves and each other. So here is your chance.
Okay, so what do other people think? Is Katie how we expected Katie to look? There's a point from Ms. Jones that sorry, Amit, I know you've had your hand up, but we've not heard anything from Ms. Jones yet. So maybe you want to just say your point.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Yeah. What were you asking me?
Well, I mean, what the moment on the table is like, is Katie how we thought Katie was going to look?
I think Katie looked better than I thought. How about that? Yeah. You know, because we will judge, you know what I mean? And you know, something that even when you can't see people, people are picking out, you know, if people are having a telephone conversation, let's go back to when, you know, maybe, I'm imagining, because I wasn't old enough this time, but when people would be dating and they would pick up an ad and in the paper maybe, and then they would call, you know, people would telephone each other, and they're thinking of all these different things, clues probably to pick out in what people are saying, what this person might look like. There's something, or they form in their mind. Even if you read a book, you form in your mind what those characters look like just from, you know, to suit yourself. And even in the past, sorry, I'm going to mix lots of things up here because I've got lots of thoughts flying through my mind. But just thinking like even in the past, I've read books with other people, and then we'll talk about how we think the people look, or who we'd have play those particular characters, or when the film finally came out, what we thought of this, and sometimes we had completely different views of how the characters would look between each other, let alone what the casting, you know, directors had selected. And that's just based on our judgments of, you know, the character.
One of the things I'm going to take from that as well is like we're kind of, it goes back to this point that we were making earlier on. I think you made it as well, Katie, about the human imagination, that we want to imagine a person. Okay, it's not just that we, you know, that we actually immediately imagine somebody and we imagine what they're going to be like, be it a film, a book, or a phone call. So we're kind of got this, we can't help creating this picture in our minds. Okay, Amit, I'm going to come to you then, you, Ellen. What's your point, Amit?
Yeah, no, there were a couple of things. I was thinking that we're saying that we judge a person how they look when we meet them, but it's not just on how they look; it's on how they appear, how they are, their manner and their personality, and how they communicate. So it's a mixture of how people appear and how they communicate. And we're saying maybe it's how people present themselves. But if you say how people communicate other than present, it doesn't sound as kind of loaded. A presentation is like a sort of slightly false kind of set. It's a presentation. Whereas if you say it's how you communicate, then that appears to be more straightforward, more honest, I suppose. So it's not just how somebody looks. I think there's a mixture of things when you meet somebody. Because we've always judged people. We've had to, haven't we? Like just our own sense of security and all these kind of things. You judge what's in front of you. And you have to make
going to Katie and she's put herself forward as the one, you know, that was just not on video and then on video. Did you form a picture of what she was like, and was it different to what you're seeing?
Yeah, I thought Katie would be older. I thought you'd be older from when I could just hear your voice. Yeah.
That's interesting. We're getting some interesting comments.
I was also thinking about the thing of avatars and like choosing to be an avatar of a different race or gender, and I was thinking, what if there was a game where you had to choose your avatar, but the avatars were different genders, different races, different from different socioeconomic backgrounds, and depending on which avatar you chose, they had different expectancy in the game, how far they get in the game based on like we've been like hearing about how different groups are affected by COVID in terms of mortality and based on gender, based on age, race, all these kind of things. Imagine if there was a game where, depending on which avatar you chose, your ability to do well in the game would be dependent on the real life kind of.
I mean, there could be different levels as well, I suppose.
Outcry, though. I don't know. It might cause a bit of outcry because it would show. It would be quite stark, wouldn't it? Like if you chose a person, you would have only a 60% chance of doing as well if you choose somebody else.
Okay, so we're talking with Amit's just come up with welcome Akbar. We're just talking about COVID-19, the computer game, and there's different levels. So like the starting level is you start off with, you know, it's like a healthy, fit, young person. I guess light skinned because they seem to be not having the same mortality rates, and you gradually kind of step up the level of vulnerability, but also I guess you kind of also experience what it is like to be in these other kind of genders or skins.
It could just be outside of COVID. It could
just socio-economic groups.
Just to show people what it's like to inhabit a different reality.
Yeah. Okay, so that's where we are. I know it's a bit of a concept, but that's what happens when you come in late in the game. Things have moved on a little bit from the beginning. So where we're going to go with this conversation, we're sort of talking about living in different skins and sort of like this idea of perception. It was a really good point from Ms. Jones about that you can't help but form a picture of what people are like, and you're creating these pictures in your mind. It's the human imagination. Evie, what's your point?
I wonder whether the game would have an effect in a way that I think it can be quite frustrating if you're talking to the outside public and you go online and you see like a lot of people don't seem to have the same amount of sympathy or understanding. They're like, well, whether it's like, oh, I've just worked hard or I've washed my hands, I'm fine, and they seem to kind of lack understanding like all of the structural inequalities that are going on, and they just kind of don't seem to think that it affects them, and then whether that might convince people otherwise, or you know, would people just play the game? Maybe if you are like a white woman, you get put into like a group which like doesn't do as well. So maybe you're a person of color, maybe you're working in the NHS and you like your chances do so much worse. Would you play that and then just go off and like, oh well, it's not me, so it's fine? I don't know. Part of me would hope that it might be helpful to actually change people's perspectives, but I would worry that that people seem very blind to changing their own perspectives.
Okay, how much can people actually change their own perspective? That's the question there. Daniel, let me come to you.
I think the game, or I know it's just a hypothetical game, but I think that idea, it would need to be careful with it, because in my opinion, because like you don't want to just say, okay, white woman, you're going to play as a black male and this is the black male experience, or white male, you're going to play as white woman or like black woman, and this is the black woman experience, this is the white woman experience, this is the white male experience, this is the Asian experience. Like like everyone has their own individual experience, and that I think I keep seeing people fall into the trap of, in order to like sympathize with a group, they will just like put everyone in that group and just assume that they're all like the same sort of person. So in the sense that everyone in that group becomes an avatar in the minds of that person.
So in the way, it's kind of going the complete wrong way about things, because you're just kind of then thinking that everyone's just an avatar, and they're not. They're all kind of, I see where you're coming from there. Would it have that effect? Would it be a useful game to play? How do you introduce individual personalities, and how do we escape in a way this kind of trap of like gender, race, class, all these things that kind of everyone would admit are barriers and difficulties and prejudices, but how do we actually navigate that, I guess, is the question, in a game or in real life?
I think the beauty of like games, movies, books, entertainment, fiction, wherever it is that they always put you in the shoes of another person, but you can still relate. You can still, because at the end of the day, we're all human. So you can read books by people of like of a different ethnicity, of a different sex, or different whatever culture. There will also obviously be differences, but it's those similarities that make us understand the differences, and even those.
I mean, certainly when it comes to film, somehow the similarities and the common things seem to really overpower the differences in the movie, for sure. And can we take some of that? Could we take some of that into our game or into these conversations?
Sure. Because even I feel, maybe because I'm a gamer, so I think games are better and have more potential than films to connect with people, because you are literally living the experience of that person.
Are games exploiting that potential of actually, giving that insight into being a different person?
Yeah.
They are. Or could they do it more? Or you think they are just doing? I don't know, because I don't play games. So.
I think they are doing it because, like I mean, the best like role-playing games, you're going to be spending like 60, 100 hours with that character. And for sure, depending on the game, you have like you have different options to branch out to give it, so you can like choose your own like endings and whatnot. But ultimately, you're playing as that character, and it doesn't matter if it's a good game. Like most people don't care about like the ethnicity or sex of the character, as long as it's a good character. I feel that the issue always comes in when like the character just becomes like the trope this like the stereotypical.
What do you mean by trope?
Like say you have a character which is just it just ticks all the boxes of the stereotype, and just look, we got like a woman to be the main role. So, but rather than it being like a interesting person, they literally just like a stereotypical. It's just a one-dimensional like flank, and then you're told to like, no, this is a female experience. Look, play this female experience, and then you're not sold on it because it's not a real person.
Okay,
then,
so yeah, so we need a little bit of sophistication going on. We got Patrick that's joined us. Welcome.
Hello. Long time.
We got, I mean, I guess I can just recap the whole discussion. We sort of started off talking about, you know, what's going to happen. Are we all going to be in this digital world forever? Are we just going to go further with it? We heard a lot about the advantages of being in a digital kind of experience, that everyone gets to kind of hear each other's points. You can express yourself more. You don't have to tidy up after a party. You can be somebody different. All these great things about being in the digital world. And then we sort of talked a lot about avatars, and if you represent yourself as something different online, is that a good thing, or is it actually, some people felt it was kind of dishonest? And then and then we were talking about well, I guess we're talking about what would that experience, how would that experience actually, you know, be productive? Could we learn about being somebody different, about being a different gender, a different sexuality, a different race, a different class of person, different profession, all these things. And, you know, I think Daniel's last point was that if we do that, then it's got to be really about the personality first and foremost, rather than all these kind of stereotypes, which actually could even be counterproductive, because they kind of like just make you think of all the people in that group as the same. And that's where we are right now. I don't know where people want to take this discussion, where we want to go with this. I should also say Rick's been doing the visuals in the back, and you're also superimposing a bit of chat on there, but I can't see what that says. But okay, so yeah, so that's where do we want to go with this conversation. Any thoughts? Patrick, you got a point down here? Yeah. Let me unmute you. Hang on. Yeah.
What's the man's name that was just speaking?
What was that, Patrick?
What is the man's name that has just spoken? The man you were speaking?
Daniel.
Daniel. I was listening with great interest, Daniel, to what you were just saying there in the last 5 or 6 minutes. I just checked my email and on time. It's something that's very, I think, for me, I'm still taking the corners, so to speak, because I can see it being a very useful part of a toolkit for me, working with people and having use of the digital media, because you can do a lot online that you may not be able to do face to face with a person, and you can be preparing work. And I work as a therapist counselor, so that's where I would use that in the context of being able to fine tune parts of what I would want the person to gain from me through the digital.
What would you fine tune about yourself in your online presence, Patrick?
I think I'm a very deep person in thought, so I would try and leave that to one side, and I would work as much as I could with marrying together the different we'll say forefathers, Jung and Adler and Freud, putting their bits and into a unit, into a specific type of therapy, so that it can encompass bits and pieces of all of those masters, and to try and see, can I project that? Can I show it as a light to people?
Okay, so it's about, I guess, this kind of like deeper kind of understanding, and talking about the kind of big names of psychology and psychiatry, and how does that inform our archetypes, let's say. So in a way it's about connecting deeper and connecting with history and connecting with that kind of wider thought. What do other people think about this? I mean, you know, in a way, well, Rick's visualized COVID-19, the game, but would it be like a deeper game than just this level game? Would it have a bit more nuance? I think that's what Daniel would want. Obviously, this is just a visualization. Margot, what's your point? Hang on. Yeah.
I'm interested in what Ms. Jones is putting out there on the chat, meaning that,
yeah.
Tell me if I'm paraphrasing correctly, but you know, film industry can only be saved if it gamifies.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe, I mean, I quite like passively watching films.
Yeah.
So there's always that option to kind of like step out, or you know, or have your kind of own parallel thoughts going through your head whilst you're watching something that is kind of reflective, the things that you're thinking about, or you're learning something, or whatever. And I worry that if it was a completely immersive experience, and I'll be just too busy like living it as opposed to reflecting. And I think to me,
so I guess what I'm going to take from that, Margot, is this time and space for reflection that maybe you get with a film. Yeah. Maybe we've all got with COVID where we've been self-isolating. If we're kind of being active all the time, and, you know, Katie, if you're still there, your sort of digital fantasy of like, go, creativity, make these things, you know, do we have that time and space for reflection as well that you maybe got in the classic Hollywood sort of film? Ellen, you've got a point. Let me come to you.
Oh, I think I'm unmuted. Yeah. Yeah, just I can see that Miss Jones put out as well, you know, that she wants to know whether the film industry as we know it is dead. And I'm interested in this idea of gaming too, but you know, just bring it back to the conversation about the community and is the future looking to digital? You know, there's a cinema that I used to go to, but now it's gone virtual.
What is that?
It's this documentary cinema in Bloomsbury.
Okay,
it's in Curzon. And anyway, now they've set up like a WhatsApp group, and you know, we're watching films together and discussing them online. And I've had access to films that I would have never had access to before. And also I'm discussing films with people, a community of people who are interested. And I just think there's just something so nice about this. So is the cinema as we know it dead? Yeah, I kind of think so. I not dead, but I definitely feel like
it's evolving in a way.
It's evolving.
I mean, what about this question of, because, you know, films offer that, as Margot was saying, it's more of a space to reflect, whereas a game, you're much more active, and all these interactive, immersive environments, it's much more about a kind of activity. So, I mean, where do you sit on that? Are we kind of losing that sense of space of reflection?
Well, I think that we can just combine the two.
You think it
can
be
it will be really interesting to somehow be an active participant in a film in some way, but also allow space to sort of reflect. I think the two of those could combine, and I feel like there's going to be some really interesting things coming in the future. And just going back to the point about, you know, walking in somebody's shoes, perhaps if films were a little bit more, you could be more active. Perhaps you could understand maybe what other people's lives are like more, rather than being like a passive viewer.
Okay, so if you actually could make some decisions there, you could actually find out a bit more.
Perhaps.
Yeah. Let me just come to Akbar. You got your hand up there. Hang on.
So there are these kind of, you know, choose your own adventure books.
Yeah.
In the old days.
Yeah.
There's stuff on Netflix like that. I think there's a Black Mirror episode that you could choose what happened, and there's a new one, the Kimmy Schmidt thing, that's on Netflix now. That's I haven't seen it yet, but I'm not sure I want to engage with it, to be honest.
You'd rather just sit back and
do something else. I don't want them to be interfering with my life. I want them to entertain me.
But what about what about the kind of key premise that's kind of brought this whole conversation up, which is this idea that it would be kind of interesting and insightful in some way to inhabit somebody else's body and see how the world responds to you in a different body or with a different appearance?
I'm not sure. I think. I mean, I'm not a gamer, so I find it quite challenging playing video games, especially that kind of video game.
You just don't get it, basically.
I don't get it. I just don't. They're boring. I find them. I mean, fair enough. I'll play for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and yes, we have games consoles at home. I've got a big telly at home. I've got all of that stuff. But you know, the kids play the games. That's fine.
Yeah.
But I don't. I mean.
So you think? What about the question of cinema? Do you think that cinema is like a better way to kind of convey some of these questions that we're talking about?
Yeah. I think you can maybe watch a film that lets you into somebody else's perspective on something, rather than, you know, running around with them. You know, I don't mind. I want a précis of their life. I don't want to experience them.
Okay. I think that's pretty clear. So you'd rather just kind of, you know, get it edited down. Someone can do the editing. You can sit back with your.
Well, you pay for the movies, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay.
You want to do the work yourself.
All right. So it's too much work from your perspective. Okay. Where do we want to go with this conversation? I just want to also say, there's a few things. First of all, does anyone want to have a go at hosting this? I will say, Evie, you've got too much background noise, so you're barred from hosting this. But I don't know what's going on in the back there. Someone's building a conservatory or what.
There's a leaf blower.
Oh, it's a leaf blower. Okay. But if anyone else, you know, that's maybe got a bit, we're kind of running down on the time as well, I should say.
Okay, I'll give it a go.
You want to have a go, Ellen?
Yeah,
okay. So I'm going to throw it over to you. You've got like 20 minutes. And that also, the great thing about that is that gives me a chance. People may not realize this, but I've been suppressing my own opinions because I've been the host. And now Ellen's going to probably do the same thing. So are you happy to do that? So you want to just take over?
Yeah, you know,
I'm out the middle of the table
right now.
Go around the outside.
I'm in a comfortable seat right now.
Good.
So
good.
I'm happy about that. So, where do we want to go with the conversation? Do we want to talk about the future of cinema? Is it dead? Or is it just, are we just going to have more options going forward? Are we going to have the cinema for the gamers, where they can get out their bedrooms and actually play games with other people in a public space? So are we just going to be viewing film and television through the computer screens more, you know? And is it something that we would pay for? Or we can also talk about, we got a point from Margot.
Yeah, sorry, I realised that I can't actually do the raised hand emoji. The really disappointing real life hand. Sorry about that.
No problem.
I kind of wonder, because we started off by talking about, you know, the community in South London, and I wonder whether that's even a relevant conversation. Because the conversation all in the past couple of hours has been about, you know, all the possibilities that the digital world is giving us, and maybe, you know, maybe some people who can't get the program, they'll be just the ones left behind, and maybe that's fine, you know.
Yeah. Who knows? You know, you're right. The conversation started off in South London, but does that matter anymore? I'm going to go to Miss Jones, and then I'm going to go to Katie. So let me just, unmute yourself. Oh, you're unmuted, Miss Jones.
I see. I was the one that posed the question, is it dead? Which film industry isn't dead, but I said, as we knew it, as in pre-COVID-19, I think so. It's on its last legs. And I really do believe that the gaming way of working, I don't know, many elements out in that can do a lot to help give new life and hope to the cinema, to that kind of cinematic type of visual. You know, I'm not interested in games whatsoever, really. It's not something that really appeals to me. However, cinema does, and I'm quite excited about what gaming world can offer, and what virtual reality can offer. A spectator, someone who participate, I feel like in the future, and I think it's quite near, within 5 years, I do really believe that you may be able to go to the cinema or go to a place what gets you out of your bedrooms, as you say. You might be in that same film. It's already directed and it has a beginning and an end. But people that attend that film can have a different experience. Some people might pay for a more spectator experience where they watch it in a different kind of way. But us participants in the film, in the world of that film, but also we are currently, because you're when you watch a film, you're manipulated to feel certain emotions, opinions about the characters in that film. So in some ways, you're a spectator. In there, you're asked to sort of work out who the protagonists are, work out is in different degrees, different films. Whereas perhaps it could be that in the future as well, in that same film, there might be people that want a more active experience. And so they are much more part of that VR experience in the sense that they are physically meeting up and doing things in that film. So I think in the future, that's a place to go with cinema.
So what you're saying is that although you're not really interested in gaming right now, you're looking forward to seeing how it evolves and how cinema and gaming kind of combine. I can see your hand up, Rin and Akbar as well, but I know that I'd really been I know that Katie, you had your hand up, so let's hear from you. What is your point here?
Thank you. So there were, like, I heard quite a few people wondering where the technology is, where it will go, and so on. And maybe there is a need for some kind of place to actually discover these things, because I've been on lookout for these technologies for quite a while, and on IMDb I can see that there is a whole list of films and short movies since 2017 and even 2016, which are viewable as 360-degree movies. Basically, during any time of the movie, you can turn the camera in any direction and see any part of the scene. You're no longer limited to just one particular angle of the movie. Now, recently, within last couple weeks or maybe less, there has been presented a new game engine which basically draws the games, and what was particular, it can draw more pixels than our screens can represent, like billions of them, not millions as our current screens are capable. So basically the games within a year or two will probably become as realistic from our perspective of viewing as movies or even reality if you use virtual glasses. The thing is that, for example, now there are a lot of streamers of games who just play the game and stream it online, and they earn a lot of money from it. When someone was asking, will someone pay money for that? So maybe there will be in the future kind of movies, games, hybrids, where we will find our favorite players / directors, which we enjoy how they present that movie. And then maybe we will watch that movie, from a totally different angle, from maybe a different character in the same movie. Because, movies presented often either fragments of each person's experience of that same movie. Take a famous movie like Avengers, from each and every Avenger, the whole movie has a totally different perspective. Imagine if you could actually watch those and, see how different people see that different perspective from which angle. It's like, I think this doesn't shrink the creativity of our movies, but kind of explodes it in an insane, hard to comprehend way.
That's really interesting. So it sounds like you are also quite excited to see how, gaming, films, movies are going to develop, but you're saying that the technology isn't there yet. I thought it was interesting what you were saying about finance and how gamers get paid a lot of money right now. The funding in the film industry, is struggling, and I wonder if the film industry can learn something from gamers and how they get money to fund their movies. We've got a raised hand from, I know who was next. Oh, Rin, and then we're going to go to Akbar, then we're going to go to David, and then Mikey. All right, so who's next? It is Rin. Rin is next.
So again, Katie came in with the point that I was going to make, but as in, the virtual reality and 360 technologies seem to be the most obvious way for films to go. You may remember back many years ago, and there was a TV program or a film, I don't remember it now, and they talked about a comic book where I think it was in Big or something like that, where you designed a comic book where you designed the ending, you could design where it goes, what the character does next. I think it was there was also like a comic book by numbers or something along those lines that back in the 80s. So you just get VR films where you are a character in the film, or you can just watch from the sideline, and then you decide where the story goes. That seems to be an interactive walkthrough environment that maybe could also bring in the technology from the film Strange Days, where you feel you watch somebody else's experience, like on a roller coaster or whatever, and then you get filled with the same feelings that person had, not virtual feelings, but actually chemically induced, almost drug-like feelings of what the person was thinking of or feeling when they were going through the same experience. And it went pretty bad in Strange Days, but that's probably mostly where we're going.
So Strange Days is a movie.
Is a film, yeah.
Is a film. Okay, cool. It sounds like perhaps those excited about the future and where cinema's going to go and watch that film, Strange Days. I'm going to make a little note of it myself. I know you said things didn't work out quite well, but anyway, I made a little note of it. All right, that's an interesting point, Rin. Akbar, chime in. What have you got to say? What are your thoughts about this? I know there was a few people responding to what you said about gaming earlier.
Yeah, so I don't know whether making games or films more hyper realistic or adding 3D or whatever actually makes them any better. I mean, people watch films on their phones, and yeah, I've got a 3D projector that I've only used maybe 3 times, and it's all. I watched Avatar for the first time in the cinema in 3D and all of that. And I have to say, I thought it was a bit crap until I watched it in 2D at home on a little telly. and because I think sometimes all that extra takes away from the story. And if it's a good story, it'll be a good story on your phone. It'll be a good story on a big, huge cinema screen. It'll be a good story anywhere. But by adding all this extra stuff, I just don't know if it really makes it a better experience.
Yeah, that's really interesting when you just highlighting the need for good storytelling, because that is at the root of all experiences, gaming or whatever. It's interesting, actually. I'm wondering about maybe options, perhaps for you watching films on 2D. That's what works for you, that's what resonates. But maybe for somebody else, they need to have the option of 3D or VR glasses. Perhaps going forward, we just need to create more options for people. Okay, the next person, so we got Mikey, David, and then back to you, Miss Jones. So Mikey, you're next. Oh, yeah. Okay, let me unmute. Great. You can unmute yourself, Mikey, I believe. Yeah, great.
It's funny to be on the other side of the table here, but I'm one of these people that doesn't like either thing, really. I mean, I don't really like playing games or really going to the cinema. I just find that all the cinema films, like Hollywood films, all seem too similar to each other. And there's this thing, I think, the Hollywood imagination, which is really, I think, quite limited and very kind of middle class and capitalist. And it's like, it's quite boring. Like, I think it's exemplified in the film Inception, where they go into people's dreamscapes and they explore, but the dreamscapes are all so fucking boring. They're so much like another Hollywood film, and it's like, is that the best you can come up with? And I think if there's so much more that can be done, I sort of agree with Akbar that it's about the ideas rather than the technology.
That's yeah. So do you agree that perhaps, you know, all of these extra accessories like making it 3D, putting on VR glasses is just hiding from the fact that perhaps the story, you know, is not that great? Or
I mean, I kind of think that the problem is really with the film, the way films are produced, that, you know, we're just, you know, it all goes through the same kind of filter, which is like the box office filter, the bums on seats. So I think like actually diversifying the way that we hear stories is the way to go, really. With it. So it's not all about cinema, or at least Hollywood cinema.
Interesting. All right. So I believe, David, you had your hand up. So I think you can unmute yourself as well.
Thank you, Elaine. I was just trying to make the point about video games, sport video games. And basically, does the new star will be like a video games player playing sport game rather than having the physical stars?
Oh, so you're saying video games, sports video games?
Yes. So basically, first those people would watch video games of football, for instance, rather than watching the real things. And basically, if you extend it, if it's not a football or a match or something like that, maybe everybody could get involved into a virtual film setting, and basically the same, being their own character in the virtual world.
That's interesting.
I am a social worker, and basically I go and help people, and things will never arrive in the reality, but basically could happen in the virtual world, kind of stuff.
Yeah. And also, I wonder if you'll be able to superimpose our faces onto like footballers, you know? That could be interesting. And then Miss Jones, you got your hand up. I believe you're next. Anyone else put their hand up that wants to chime in? I've got Miss Jones next, so.
Yeah, I mean, so long as, I mean, a lot of the Hollywood cinema, it's about moving product. At the end of the day, it's about capitalism. That's the reason why lots of these things are churn out. I'm not obviously a film critic, or I've never studied film, but I think most people can agree, and it's quite obvious that film is about product placement. It's about, you know, desiring the types of products that America or people in America can make money from, and it's about the agenda of the general country and making sure that the films are conducive to that, and sort of make sure that any viewer is, you know, looks sympathetically at those things, desires those things. So whatever is the alternative, or whatever art forms come forward, they would also have to be able to move product, and also have to do that. So that's where the impetus would come for making a lot of these changes. And if bolstering Netflix or others that will come, other forms that we watch at home, if that's going to move the kind of units that cinema once did, then that will remain. But if there's other ways of making even more money, and then that will push changes much more, not just from an art perspective, because already Marina, I think it is, has already mentioned, and I think Daniel's already mentioned some things that are already going towards that. So from the artist, where the capitalist jumps on that, they have to be able to see that it's viable for them financially, and then we're going to see big move. And it's not just Hollywood. There's other major places that are going to boom. I mean, Korean cinema really has blown up in the last couple decades, and there's Nollywood, or let's say African cinema, that's an untapped market, and others. So.
Wow, so globally, perhaps we'll have more access to all of these films from all these different, you know, what do you call it, production houses around the world will have more access to all of this amazing content. So right now we actually are coming up to 4 p.m. So it's time for final thoughts. I'm just going to grab your point first, Margot. Oh, let me unmute you. Oh, done.
I guess I'm like this. But yeah, I mean, you were saying about Mike, I think you were saying about Hollywood and the kind of capitalist ideas, and I think you, Ms. Jones, touched on it as well. But I think gaming is just like another one of those. It's just another thing to kind of churn out money, and it's like, hey, you can be an avatar now, isn't that great? Because you're going to realize your potential, whatever, you're going to become someone else. that's brilliant. Oh, here's the subscription. Just hit that subscribe button and the bank transfer. I think it's all really cynical. That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah. So you're feeling quite cynical about the whole thing. Anyway.
Yeah, I think it's just further capitalist cynicism disguised as free choice.
That's interesting, actually. I just can see Katie's point there, and Katie's saying that it seems that the 2024 Olympics will have a computer game category. Oh my gosh, whoa, bloody hell. Well, I hope, this means that all of the other athletes are going to get paid some decent wages, because I know those gamers get paid a lot of money, the successful ones. Anyway, time for final thoughts. So, Stephen, we haven't heard from you in the discussion. Do you have a final thought about anything you've heard today? We've really covered quite a wide range of topics.
Yeah, I was waiting for the conversation to move on from avatars and stuff. Just about whether we're going too far down the line route. I don't feel in any danger of that as a community musician, because I don't think the technology has got there yet for synchronized playing. You can't play with each other in real time. But one interesting thing that I realized is that the art form can adapt to the technology. So you can have genres of music that don't rely on strict timekeeping so much. But it's not going to substitute the real world, because people still want the real world. People still want the adventure, the excitement of heading out and meeting people in real life in a venue. But it just augments the amount of experience there is, the options there are for people, I think.
Yeah. Interesting point. I just want to say, for the next Talkaoke, feel free to jump in and take the conversation, wherever you want to take it. But Stephen, that was a really good point. So any more final thoughts before we wrap up this session? Let me see who hasn't said anything. What about, okay, Patrick, any final thoughts from you?
To the different people that just spoke, and I think because it's a unique, I term it as science of its own. We're still in it. We're still learning and tasting or testing the menu to see what are the ingredients that will make it perfected to a point where you can say, yeah, that's something that's very special about digital, because without having known enough about it before I went dabbling at the different things, like testing this and that and whatever, just to go around to see this works, that works, that's not so good, this is better, or whatever. Trial and error will probably always be the best master you have in any of these things, and it's something very, I would consider it very futuristic. It's something that you can see in the future will have a place, because as the lady, I'm envious of her, the lady who was sitting on the bench in the park, said, if we have less activities, so to speak, like how film houses, cinemas, it's not the death knell of everything that there will be, because we will have to source what we have from different places, different outlets, and when we're doing that, we're still like, if you want to put pounds and shillings, we're still giving employment, and we're still giving productive base to people, maybe in a different way, yeah, but at the same time, possibly the people who are in these cinemas or have been in the cinemas are maybe thinking that way themselves. They may have been like, then I'm sure that if there were business people, they're not just sitting back on their hunches and letting things pass them, possibly preempting this happening, and as a result, they're being proactive themselves. They're seeing the way through and a way forward with it. How to do it is for all of us. It's very interesting.
So somehow, you know, if they were able to look to the future, perhaps they would have been able to sort of plan for, you know,
Yeah.
how they're gonna survive this. How will the cinema and film industry survive this? Okay,
A
so
little bit like the epidemic.
yeah. So if there's no more final thoughts from anyone, I'm just looking around now. I will. Miss Jones, is that a final thought, or I just forgot to put the hand down? I think. Amit, final thought from you. Okay. Oh, sorry, Mikey, is that a final thought from you? God. All right, I'm sick of saying the word final thought now.
I think there's a few final thoughts, to be honest, coming through.
Okay,
but I mean, I just think we just going back to the point about imagination and Patrick's point about trial and error. I think we just need to be playing with it to be more playful and more imaginative about all these different media and how we use them. And for me, it's all about participation rather than sitting back and just, you know, being a kind of victim of culture, actually being an active participant. I think that's where it fits in as well to communities, because if you've got people that are actually playing music instead of there being one musician, you can link musicians together. Or if it's people making art, they can make art together. And I think that's the exciting thing, is the linking together of this creative flow. And that to me is a future.
Creative flow and joining forces. Rin?
Sorry, I was paying no attention at all.
Any final thoughts about anything you've heard today?
No, I think I've probably said everything I would say. Thank you.
No probs. And Amit? Okay, no final thoughts then. All right, well, it looks like we've come to a natural ending of the Emmett.
Hi, I just my internet connection went down. The same spot I've used several times before. I had no internet connection there at all. I was reminded of Clive Lewis, who was trying to vote against the immigration bill the other day, and officially, according to the things, he abstained. And he said it's a technical reason. Now, this is the problem. As soon as we become reliant on technology, as far as I know, it didn't affect the result of that bill. And imagine because something becomes law because of some technical reason that someone can't do the internet voting. It's just, we've got to be very careful. There's a reason why in the past we relied on people being in the same place, because then we know that they are present in more ways than one. Because if someone is off somewhere else, someone could be holding a gun to their head and get them to vote that way. We don't know. So I just think we've got to be very careful about trying to entrust our things to these. At certain times and moments, life or death situation, we have to rely on these things, but it doesn't mean that we want them to permanently usurp the tried and tested methods.
Yeah, no, you're right. Actually, we have to go forward with caution, I think. So yes, if anyone doesn't have anything else to say, Miss Jones, I'm not sure if that's a hand or just I forgot to put it down, but this is your chance to say something. Otherwise, you know, thank you. Thanks, Rick, for creating the visuals. Patrick, you know, we got a final thought from you already, Patrick. So I know that 4 o'clock was, you know, the natural ending to the conversation. But don't forget, next week, the 28th, we have another Talkaoke session. This one's going to be very good, actually. It's going to be incorporating people from the local community, socially distanced, as well as viewpoints from us on the internet. Abafedli Live, check it out, join in, you know? All right, thanks, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.